one of the most impossible comics to follow. No matter how hard I kill, you can follow me. And a lot of times I'll go out on stage to say like, hey everybody, how you doing? And I'll wind up doing an hour and 10 minutes. And then I'll bring Tom Segura on stage. I'll go, this guy was supposed to MC. I just wanted to get to you guys. And I wound up talking for an hour and a half. But really I just didn't want to wait around. I just got antsy and did my show. And then I bring the MC out to do his half hour and he kills. And it's because I leave energy on the stage. It's all like fun and good. And isn't this great? Like we're all sharing this thing. Chappelle is one of those guys. Very funny. This has nothing to do with his act. He's a guy that when he walks off the stage, it's like pulling the plug on like a beach ball. He deflates the entire room. And that's because he spends the last 5 minutes of his act. Who am I kidding? He spends the last 15 minutes of his act going, well, they're giving me the light. I guess I gotta go. And everyone's like, no. And he goes, yeah. I noticed the black comic, we get the light a lot quicker than the white comics. And the crowd becomes like obsessed with like, what the fuck's going on? Why does this guy have to get off stage? Meanwhile, you're next going, are you fucking kidding me? You're supposed to do a 20-minute set. You're 35 minutes in and you just now started going, well, now they're blinking the light. I guess they really want the nigger off stage now. And I'm like, oh my, and then you go up on stage and they hate you because you're the reason he had to get out. So I never gave a shit about anyone's act. I'll follow anybody. I love it. We're comics. And I always like Hackett and Bob Newhart. I've had these conversations with these guys. We're all brethren. That's how I feel. I won't slam any comics because we're all doing the same job. And it's an important job, making people laugh, moving energy around, man.
Yeah.
But man, when you get the light, just fucking wrap it up and get off and let people do their job.
That's one of the worst things that a comic you can ever do is mention that you got the light. Or they're telling
the audience doesn't know there's a light. They just think you're this well-oiled machine and it comes out to 20. These are magical men. They do 20. They all just do 20 minutes. I don't know how they pull it off every night. Well, there's the light. I noticed the black guy.
In Dave's defense, when he came to New York, you know, he too was 17 years old.
16. I bought him his first beer.
And so he really didn't have an understanding of how things work. And I didn't think.
Let's not be apologists here. By the time he started doing they're giving me, he knew exactly what was happening, and it was a very manipulative way to go about it, and it was a way to get. Oh, who doesn't want to hear a room of people going, "No, don't go, Shane."
Well, can I just tell a quick Dave Chappelle story?
Yeah.
Do you mind? So this is one of my favorite stories. When I started representing David, I represented him for about 8 or 9 years. He was like 17 years old.
Did you represent him when he turned on the money at Comedy Central?
No.
What do you think really happened?
Well, I'm going to tell you about that in a second. So I'll make this as quick as I can here.
Nice. That's called a tease, folks.
So he does the Montreal Comedy Festival, and we work on 2 different sets for his show. So the industry was coming, so it was an incredible thing. He killed, getting calls from everybody, and when you get calls as a comic to be represented by an agency, it's always a fascinating thing because when you have the heat on you, they come out, there's this huge marble granite table the size of like Rhode Island.
Yeah, it's absurd.
There's like everybody in a suit around the table who you're never going to see again. And so we're going into this office at UTA. I'll never forget this, United Talent Agency. And we're seated at the end of the table. And all these agents start filing and saying hello. And assistants start bringing in soda, popcorn, there's cookies, cut
sliced
fruit,
pineapples,
sandwiches. It's like this spread from like Caligula. It's unbelievable.
The prince from Saudi Arabia is coming. Get the fruit.
It's like all the cookies.
Get the fruit, Norton.
Every single thing is out in front. And you're looking out at, as the last platter comes out in front of you as some kind of thing, and you're looking out at all these suits and all these people, and Dave's this young kid, and he leans over to me, and he looks at all the food on the table, and he leans over and he whispers in my ear, he's like, Barry, man. I'm like, yeah, Dave. You think they know I'm high?
Do you think I have a theory? There seems to be with African American talent, they go like there's like how do I put this? I'll just put it. I don't want to be that one extra sentence that gets you in trouble, man. What is it about Martin Lawrence, Dave Chappelle, Cat Williams, and the list goes on, where these guys lose their minds and they just tap out. Is it the amount of grass they smoke? Like when you're 17 at UTA, if you can't not be high to meet people for a half hour, you have a problem.
Well, I always think about this, and this is
now I would do it.
This is something I
would rub my balls and shake all their hands.
No, this is something I really want to talk to you about deeply about this, because this is something that I really believe in truly, is that if you're a comic and you're smoking weed, you're doing coke, you're drinking alcohol, it's like it takes the years off your life as a comic, and it destroys your, people don't believe it, but it destroys your mind slowly, your nerve endings, and you start going crazy. So somebody who might be a person who's perfectly functional, after you smoke weed for 10 years, you can become a manic depressive. You can suffer from depression, bipolar, because everything's fucked up. You're fucking up your system. And so that's why this happens. And it's not just the black comics. I mean, let's face it. Chris Farley is no longer here. Richard Jeni is no longer here. Chris Farley was
never walking down the center divider of the freeway with his pants off crying.
He was taking a shit out a window. What is that?
That's because he was the best. He wasn't high when he did it.
If Martin Lawrence took a shit out a window, there'll be news stories everywhere. Can you believe him? Martin Lawrence took a shit out the window.
I know. But I worked with Chris when he was sober. So he was actually sober when he did that. Yeah. That's just how amazing he was.
But I mean, I do believe that that's...
Chappelle... He does the Chappelle show, and he probably makes a nominal fee, and it becomes this crazy hit. And I think, was the number on the table, was it actually $55 million?
Yeah, $50 million. What it was.
For those of you at home, let me put that in perspective for you. That is $55 million. That's A-Rod money, and there's never an away game.
And let me tell you, so this is a great story. So I haven't been representing Dave for about 5 years at this point. He's his father passed away, and a lot of things happened in his life, and he just moved to Yellow Springs, away from everything. And I stopped working with him. The agent stopped working with the lawyer. Everybody,
he just taps out.
Even his business
He's just Dan Haggard. He's Grizzly Adams. He's a man in the woods.
Goes out, and for like 3 to 4 years, he's gone. And he comes back, he does the show with Neil Brennan, who, by the way, was the doorman at our comedy club at Boston Comedy Club.
To your club.
And he was your roommate as well.
Slept on my couch rent-free for 3 years and drooled all over my futon.
So they create the show together, they do it, and Dave renegotiates, gets the $50 million deal, because what happens was the show sold over 5 million DVDs, more than The Simpsons. It was the number one scripted show in the history of television on DVD. That's since I Love Lucy. So I get a call from Doug Herzog, who's the president of Comedy Central, out of the blue. And I'm like, hey, Doug, how you doing?
The man who canceled Action.
The man who canceled Action, which is another great story. Could you just tell that real quick?
Doug Herzog, don't let us lose our place here. We found out Action was going to be canceled, and I was pissed off that it was going to be canceled because it was it was one of the best shows of all time, and they put us on Fox opposite Friends, and the counter programming to Friends on the WB was WWF wrestling at like its batshit crazy height. So you're either watching Friends or you're like a neckbeard playing BlizzCon, and so like you're watching WWF because you want to see The Undertaker kick some ass, right? So Action is just this flotsam jetsam in between. Charmed was in between. Like, so Charmed was on at the same time. So you got Friends, Charmed, and Thursday.
And we were following an animated show.
Yeah, we were following, I think it was Family Guy.
Family Guy, yeah.
And before it was Family Guy.
Yeah.
And they're canceling us. And I go into Doug Herzog's office at Fox, and I go, you cannot possibly cancel this show. It's amazing. He goes, I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you. And Doug's a great guy, and he was under the gun at Fox. They rode that fucker into the ground. I swear, when he dies, Fox should take out the paddles and bring him back to life and go, it's our fault you're dead. We took 7 years off your life. When do you go back out there and enjoy your life, you guy that we ran into the ground? The guy put Family Guy and Action on television and got fired.
That's right.
That's the business for him.
And what's amazing was he fought for us, and this is an amazing story.
And they said, no, we want Jennifer Love Hewitt, Time of Your Life.
Yeah, at the board meeting where they're deciding the shows, Peter Chernin says to Doug, he says, listen, Doug, I can't put Action on. It's too edgy. And he stands up and he slams his hand on the table. He'd just been hired 3 months ago. He says, listen, this is the reason you fucking brought me here, to put shows like this on the air. And if you don't put this on the air, you might as well just ship me back to New York where I was, because
He was at Comedy Central.
Yeah, because this is what I came here to do.
And then you either get fired or they put your show on the air, and in an act of providence, they put a show on the air, which was Action, which I was happy about, and you were happy about, and Buddy Hackett was happy about.
And we're hanging around with the late Ted Demme, Don Rio,
Ted
who
Demme
worked
directed
on
our pilot.
Gleason, the late Ted Demme. What a wonderful guy. Chris
Don
Thompson.
Rio wrote like the first 14 episodes of Sanford and Son.
Yeah.
He created Blossom
and
MASH. I once said to Don Rio, I go, you wrote for Jackie Gleason on the Jackie Gleason show when you were a kid. You used to write for Slappy White. He's a white cat, but he was on the Chitlin circuit. He's Slappy White straight man.
17 years old.
17 years old. I go, you wrote Sanford and Son, you wrote for MASH, and then how do you create Blossom? And he looks at me, he takes his glasses off, and he goes, I have a house in Hana, and I can only get there by helicopter. And on the side of the helicopter, it says, go fuck yourself. That was his answer.
I'll never forget that.
Don Rio was stripping furniture in his parents' store in Rhode Island, and he saw Slappy White on The Tonight Show when it was in New York with Johnny Carson, and Slappy White ate it, and he tanked, and Slappy White was his idol, and he goes, I can't have my hero bombing, I'm going to write jokes and sell them to Slappy White.
And he snuck out of his house.
He goes, I'll give him to Slappy White. And Johnny, in a stroke of God, goes, Slappy White's going to be performing at the place right around the corner from Don Rio's house. Like, literally, it's like right there. So he stays up all night just scratching out jokes, like reams of like pages,
like in
chapters.
Pawtucket, Rhode Island.
Yeah,
or
like
something
three notebooks filled with Slappy White jokes. And he sneaks into the club, sneaks into Slappy White's dressing room in his father's powder blue tuxedo. He doesn't have like a suit. And all these brothers pile in and they're like, whoa, hey, like, what's this guy doing in here? And he goes, hey, Mr. White. He's 17 years old, Matty. And he goes, I'm a comedy writer out of New York. He's trying to act cool. And I wrote you some. I saw you on Tonight Show, and I thought you might use a little juice here. He's trying to act cool. And it's Slappy White. It's all Slappy White's posse, entourage. They're just smoking joints, blowing in his face. They think he's a joke. Slappy White reads a notebook of jokes. He reads a page, turns it, looks at Don Rio, but like a poker face. Reads the shit takes like an hour and 45 minutes. And at the end, Don Rio said he probably lost 6 pounds of sweat. He was so scared. He thought they were going to kill him, like the Black Mafia. And he goes, hey, boy, can you read? And he goes, excuse me? He goes, can you read? And he goes, yeah, I can read. He goes, all right, I'm playing the Apollo Theater tomorrow night. You're going to be my straight man. Stick to the cue cards. We're going to be cool. And that was it. And he drives to New York. Slappy White picks him up at his parents' house. And there's a photo on Don Rio's wall of him wearing a powder blue tuxedo. And he wrote like these bits like Slappy White running for president. How do you plan to campaign through the South? At night. On top of the trees. Like that was all Don Rio. And when they were doing the Chitlin circuit, they would stay out till like 4 o'clock the next afternoon, like rolling dice. And Rio would tap out like at 5 a.m. And he knew that Red Fox had a pilot called Sanford and Son. So he would just go back to his room and go, well, screw it. And he would write Sanford and Son. It's the best. One of the coolest guys you'll ever meet. So I go into Doug Herzog's office and I go, you can't cancel us. You have to move us to another night. And he goes, I got no place to put you. That's networks will always tell you that too. They're like my hands are tied. 7 days a week, 5 hours a night of programming. I don't know what to do. I got no place to put you. I go, why don't you put us on Sundays after that 70s show? And he goes, can't do that. Can't do it, JJ. I don't know what to tell you, JJ. I can't put you on after that 70s show. It's a family show. I go, Doug, are you out of your mind? Every time I watch that 70s show, they're eating hash brownies. And he goes, yes, JJ, but they're all eating them together.
As a family. As a family, they're eating hash brownies, JJ. I got no place. And like, how do you argue with that logic? So Dave Chappelle, $55 million on the table. So I get the call from Doug, who's now at Comedy Central, and he calls me and says, listen, I need you to help me with something regarding Dave Chappelle. I said, Doug, I haven't represented him in like 5 years. He says, yeah, but you're the only guy who represented him for, a long period of time. No one else has represented him even for 9 months. You got to help me. I said, okay, well, I'll do anything for you. What do you need? He says, I've got my feet up on my desk right now, Barry. And I'm looking at the end of my desk, and there's a paperweight on the end of my desk. And do you know what's under that paperweight, Barry? I said, no, Doug, I don't know.
Mary Kate Olsen.
He says there's a check for $25 million under that paperweight. And I was wondering if you could sort of give me some guidance on how